Shalom. Welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Delmar Chabad House, and we have a very special program today, and we've been using this book. If you can see, The Mind Over Matter, and this is a picture of the Lubavitch Rebbe, a little bit younger. He passed away in 1994, but he was not only, of course, a rabbi, the leader of the Lubavitch Hasidic movement, but he also was a scientist. And one of the problems I think that many youth have is that, let's call it faith versus science. Can I be a good Jewish person? Can I believe in God? But I also, either I am a scientist, I learned obviously science, a lot of science in school, but can I hold by science and I can, I understand it's true, obviously we're using science every day, electricity, television that we're on now, and etc., going to the moon, etc., that, of course, that's the truth. We see that. So can you have science and God at the same time? So that's a really, really incredible big question that everybody has, and that's why, of course, we don't back down from big issues here, and that's what we're going to tackle right on. Can a person have faith and be scientific at the same time? As the Messianic redemption unfolds, according to Jewishness, I have to explain this, is that the Messiah will eventually come. We hope any day, but in any case it will come. But it's closer that he comes, the more we see the convergence of science and Torah and Judaism. We're seeing that it comes together, and even though maybe you not see it right now, that's what we're going to explain, how the latest scientific, either latest in the last century, but even the more recent science discovery actually show that there is no contradiction between Torah, Judaism, and science. One of the social trends predicted by Torah sources is the revolution that is now underway in the world of science and technology. It is an intellectual revolution based on scientific discovery. The essential notion revolutionizing the academic world and society generally is that the basic principles of religion and the basic findings of natural science not only do not conflict, but actually harmonize equally. For example, modern physics acknowledge that the universe depends on a higher consciousness. And he footnotes here that he says this is from the Conscious University, part and whole, in modern physical theory. Can't say as I read these books, but in the bottom line is that there are scientific books that are saying that there is something beyond just a chemistry lab. There is a conscious that continuously creates, sustains, and coordinates all the material and energy in the universe. This is essentially the Hasidic view of continuous creation. So again, we have a scientific book, and we have a Hasidic treatise that actually say the same thing. Relativity theory shows that the idea of an Earth-centered planetary system is just as valid as a sun-centered solar system, and this is the Torah's view. Now, of course, they'll teach you in basic science that the sun is at least the center of our Milky Way, maybe not the center of the universe altogether. And so therefore they say, well, the Jewish people, of course, which hold by the Torah, say that the earth is the center. Man is the center of the universe. Well, how can we be that according to science? But that's the thing, that this is long ago, because of course it's Albert Einstein, not that long ago, like I say, in the past century, that shows that in relativity, it depends where you're standing. Where's the center? Well, if you're here, that is the center. So therefore, it's not really a contradiction again. So either we see that ideas that do coordinate with science and Torah, or else when people say, well, science says one thing, Torah says the other, it just can't be. Something's wrong there. Well, here we see that people bring up always the earth-centered idea and say, well, there it is. You're wrong. I mean, science says you're wrong. And the worst thing with Albert Einstein, it isn't wrong at all. It just depends where your focus is. And if your focus is here on Earth, then you're the center. Quantum theory has given man the central role of being the pre-planned goal of the cosmos since its beginning. Since for physical reality to emerge from a potential to actual state requires the participation of a conscious observer. This is very important. I mean, we're really talking about these ideas in a few lines, and it would be worthy to get a scientist here and talk at length on each one of these points, really, for the time allotted to us. But the bottom line is that quantum theory is saying that the observer actually makes the situation. So therefore, that's what we're talking about also. This is the modern paraphrase of the ancient Jewish teaching, obliging belief that for my sake was the world created. You're looking at the universe, you are actually making the universe the way you observe it. And that is, I mean, it's a little bit funny and it's a little hard to understand. But on the other hand, that is normal science because that is quantum theory. So therefore, we have an idea there that the way we perceive the world is the way that, in reality, that's the way it is. And even though it's like self-conscious of yourself, but on the other hand, that is science. Many quantum physicists even maintain that for physical reality to exist, the observer participant must possess free will, since consciousness needs a physically unconstrained means to act on the quantum system. This negates the popular misconception that people's actions are merely a product of nature and nurture. Thus, science supports free choice and hence moral accountability. Well, this is very, very important. We should talk about this a little bit more because, maybe let's say the opposite extent where science, and we unfortunately saw World War II, where the Germans, and they weren't a barbaric, I mean, they acted like barbarians, but they were very highly scientific is what I want to bring out. It wasn't a bunch of cavemen that went around beating up on people. These people were intellectual people. I actually once talked to a professor, he was a professor of Russian philosophy, and he showed me that at the Wannsee conference, I'm bringing out ideas fast that really need an explanation, but in World War II, the Holocaust didn't start immediately. Adolf Hitler got to power and says, wipe out all the Jews. It took, the whole the Nazi regime only lasted 12 years, but it did take a few years for them to get the final solution, the Holocaust, in motion. And it really started around January 1942 to get to high gear, I should say. And that was at the Wannsee conference. Wannsee is just a suburb outside of Berlin. So you think these evil men getting together again, these cavemen kind of people getting together to kill people. And don't quote me in numbers, but it's like 7 out of 13. But it's a high percentage of numbers of that were doctors or PhDs, again, highly educated people that sat down saying, how could we wipe out the Jews, innocent people and children, 1.5 million victims of the 6 million Jews were children. How are we going to wipe them out? I mean, totally barbaric. But again, they were highly intellectual people. They had either doctors or doctorates, and obviously they're highly educated. So going from that idea, meaning that a person just thinks that if you have science and morals are separate. I mean, we have nuclear bombs, so of course nuclear energy in our houses are to some extent, I mean to a small percentage, but there is nuclear energy giving us electricity. On the other hand, we all know you can have nuclear bombs, and God forbid we should know from it, could really wipe out every human on the face of the earth within probably hours, just we all know that. So obviously it could be to the ultimate good or obviously to the ultimate evil. But what's going to constrain us? What if there's an evil person like an Adolf Hitler comes on the scene again and wants to wipe out Russia or China? They're evil. We're going to wipe them all out. Maybe you say it can't happen, and hopefully it doesn't happen, to say the least. But, where's your constraints? Who says not? Maybe, these are our enemies. Get rid of our enemies. But therefore, you see Torah, and now Torah surely has a higher moral authority. It's not just knowledge and logic which of course it is, but there's a high moral authority. And what he's saying here is very, very interesting. You say, well, science doesn't have that. Like we said, could be a scientist and make a better gas chamber, which they did in World War II. The other hand, that's what he's trying to say, that he's trying to bring out that really science is saying there is free will. And free will means you make your own choices. And if you make your own choices, you're accountable to them. If you're programmed, you're programmed. Nothing you can do about it. I was born evil, or that's the way I am. But if you say there's free will, it says, well, why did you make this terrible choice? Why are you acting evil? Why are you acting badly? Then you're accountable for it if there is free will. So this is very, very interesting, because beforehand you would say there is no moral accountability in science. I mean, people are moral in science, but I just said, and other people are obviously are not. But so, what are you going to do about it? But here that this is even science says free will is all a part of science, and it's important that scientists realize that also. I mean, people are having that trend today. It says that pollution. So, okay, let's make a better factory. Look, the automaker. Oh, look, we're having better automobiles. Yeah, but it's polluting the air. So more and more people are getting that consciousness that there has to be some moral and ethical ideas. Obviously, in the last century, they paid people a dime an hour, whatever they did, and it was practically like slaves, and say, well, it's not the proper way to treat workers. So, I mean, fine, you're building a better machine or a railroad, whatever you're doing, but you got to take care of your workers too. So more and more we are getting to that moral ethics, but, that Torah says, even in a higher authority, that there is this part of the universe where you have free choice and you therefore are accountable. So that's very interesting, and that's, like I say, it goes hand in hand with the Torah idea. But before, in science didn't have that kind of accountability, moral accountability. Neurobiology has revealed a non-physical mind that transcends the physical brain in man. Again, you might think that a person, I am what I am, I think what I think, like a computer. But that's not true. This negates the materialistic view of man and supports the traditional notion of the human soul. There is a higher conscious. If you tell a computer you put an input, it doesn't say, well, I don't know if this is right. This is the right thing to do. They just compute, it computes and just does what it's told. So again, that many times this idea that we are predestined or pre-programmed to do what we have to do, and that's again not the Torah view at all, because you have a soul, a higher conscious, and again science is saying the same thing, that they're coming to realize there's a higher moral and higher authority in this, which we can call a soul, which we do call a soul in the human being. Molecular chemistry has revealed an atomic alphabet of some 100 elements, generating billions of compounds, parallel to the divine aleph base generating everything. That this, again, he's saying it for a few lines, and that's why I guess I'm here for, to explain it all to you, that very Jewish mystical ideas that God created the world through the Hebrew alphabet, aleph base it's called, very similar words too, aleph base, alphabet. In any case, that there's 22 letters and that there's so many different compounds that are, you can say, well, how many 22 letters? How many, there's billions and billions of things in the world, the creation of the world, trillions. So how can you get out of that? But if you coordinated, not to get the numbers now, but if you just put the numbers together and how many different combinations you can have, you do see those are trillions of combinations. And that's really what chemistry is saying. Yeah, why is everything different? It's just there's just different combinations of quantity and quality of different things that make us all different. So again, it's a totally Torah ideal, but again, it came out to this idea of molecular chemistry, whether, all right, it's 100 years ago, it's not the most recent, certain things are cutting edge, we're going to say, but on the other hand, certain things, this is what science is saying also, putting different combinations of little atoms or elements together, and you get so many different compounds, so many different creations. Regarding the origin of